You circle that while I was running down the road, trying to loosen my load. I got a world of trouble on my mind. Left out a man, the corner girl, come home at outside door. Left out a man and weave. Come on, baby, swing back.
Hi, this is Ray Owens with Square Dance Tech. This month, we're going to talk about photography, specifically how you can get some better photographs for your clubs or events. Photography is all about light, getting the right amount of light for the effect you're going for. For square dancing photos, what I've learned in all the years taking literally thousands of pictures is that getting the right amount of light sometimes is difficult. Square dancing is exactly like shooting indoor sports. You've got quickly moving targets, sometimes under less than ideal lighting conditions. For cameras, there are three components that control the amount of light. In DSLR cameras, these three components are easily adjustable, but cell cameras vary tremendously in their camera settings. Some cell cameras have professional mode where you can change some of these components. The first of these three is the shutter speed. The longer the shutter stays open, the more light that hits the sensor. Think about it. If you're sleeping in a dark room and someone turned on a light for 1,000th of a second, odds are you probably wouldn't even notice it. But if the light was on for 30 seconds, well, that'd get your attention. The second component of light control is the aperture setting. Think of an aperture as your eye's iris. The wider it's open, the more light it can let in. A camera's aperture works exactly that way. In a DSLR, the aperture is determined by mechanical blades that create the opening. If a cell phone camera has an aperture setting, it is, well, of course, a digital setting. The third component is ISO. If you're taking pictures in darker settings, using a higher ISO will help brighten the photo. But there's a downside to higher ISO settings. It's called noise. DSLR cameras, depending on the camera, have ISO up into the tens of thousands, while on cell phone cameras, if you have a manual mode, you may find your ISOs limited to somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000. You want to try to stay around 1,000 or less in ISO because of the noise it can create. To freeze the action in a photograph, you generally want to set the shutter speed to no slower than 1/800th of a second, and preferably to 1/1000th of a second. DSLRs won't have any problem with these settings, but cell phone cameras, again, vary dramatically in their abilities. With DSLRs, you can set your camera to something called shutter priority. And all that means is that you're telling the electronic brain in the camera that I want to shoot at this specific shutter speed. You, Mr. Camera, figure out what the aperture and ISO settings are to make this picture pretty. Now again, depending on your DSLR camera and the lens, that may work out well. If your lens has a pretty good aperture setting, say 2.8 or even 2.0, you can probably shoot at 1,000th of a second and keep the ISO low, and thus keeping out some of the noise. Most quote-unquote kit lenses, lower-cost lenses that are sometimes provided with the camera itself, generally have less impressive aperture settings, topping out at 4.8 or 5.6. They're good enough for very bright indoor shots or, if you're out in the sun. But in low-light situations, the camera will struggle to let in enough light to make a good picture. If you set your DSLR to shutter priority with a fast shutter speed and you don't have enough aperture, well, your ISO will jump up dramatically and you'll have to deal with noise. Cell phone cameras, especially the newest cameras, out in the last, let's say 5 to 7 years, have amazing low light functionality. If you're looking for pictures that are just quote-unquote good enough, well, cell phone cameras will probably be your best bet. But if you're looking for spectacular photographs with bokeh effects and shallow depth of field and the ability to control every aspect of the photo, you'll have to bump up to a DSLR. The bottom line, no matter which way you go, we'll just start taking and sharing pictures. We all love to look at our friends and family and partners on the dance floor.
I've got to know if your sweet love is gonna save me. Circle after I'm standing on the corner in Winslow, Arizona. Such a fine sight to see. Left out a man, the corner girl, come home at the side door. Left out a man and weave, and come on, baby, don't say maybe. You gotta know if